So in this video, we're going to go over the order of operations. Let's say that we needed to know what 12 divided by 6 times 2 is equal to. There's a couple of ways in which we can do this, and it's going to give us different answers. So let's explore the first option. Option 1 would be to multiply first. So we can do 6 times 2, and if we do that, we get 12. So we end up with 12 divided by 12, which is equal to 1. That would be the first answer we would obtain. But there's another option for solving this same expression. We could divide first, see what happens if we do that. So if we divide 12 by 2, 12 divided by 2, we get 6. So our expression would be 6 times 6, which would be equal to 36. Clearly, two different answers. They can't both be right. So which order is correct? Do we multiply first? Do we divide first? So multiplying first gave us an answer of 1, dividing first gave us an answer of 36. They can't both be right. So to settle the issue, mathematicians agreed on an order of operations. We can use the acronym PEMDAS to help us every time. So what does PEMDAS stand for? Well, let's go over it. Again, the order of operations, we use PEMDAS, and you can write that in vertical orientation. P is parentheses or grouping symbols. E is exponents, powers, and roots. And then M and D, we group them. M is multiply, D is divide, but we solve them as they appear from left to right, and that's critical to remember. And then A is add, S subtract, we group them as well, and we solve them as they appear from left to right. So the first thing is to do parentheses, solve whatever is inside grouping symbols. The second one is do exponents. The third one is to divide or multiply whatever appears first from left to right. And finally, the fourth step is to add or subtract or add, again, as they appear from left to right. So let's revisit. What is 12 divided by 2 times 6 equal to? Well, PEMDAS will tell us. We don't have any grouping symbols, so we can scratch off P. We don't have any exponents either, so we scratch that off. But we do have multiplication and division. Because division appears first from left to right, we divide first. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 times 6 is 36. So 36 is the correct answer. So what about, let's say, 10 divided by 2 times 5 minus 2 times 3 plus 1 plus 3 squared? Very complicated looking problem, right? Well, PEMDAS will tell us. I know it looks scary. You may be wondering how to tackle it, but look, the first step is to solve grouping symbols. So you scan your expression, you see that 3 plus 1 is inside a grouping symbol, so you solve that first. 3 plus 1 is 4. So you rewrite the expression, but now replacing 3 plus 1 in parentheses with a 4, so you get 10 divided by 2 times 5 minus 2 times 4 plus 3 squared. And we still don't know what that's equal to, but now we're one step closer. Now we move on to 2, exponents. So we scan again the expression, and we realize that we do have an exponent there, the 3 squared. So 3 squared is 3 times 3, which equals to 9. So we replace that on the original expression. Now we end up with 10 divided by 2 times 5 minus 2 times 4 plus 9. Next, we look at multiplication and division, and again from left to right. And we realize that we have a few of those operations. The first one is divide, the second one is multiply, the third one is multiply as well. So we start from left to right with division. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so that gives us 5 times 5 minus 2 times 4 plus 9. And we can move on to the next one, which is the multiplication of 5 times 5, which is 25. So 25 minus 2 times 4 plus 9. And then finally, that third operation we had there, the multiplication of 2 times 4, 2 times 4 is 8, so we end up with 25 minus 8 plus 9 and is equal to, we'll start trying to figure it out. Now, the final step is to figure out addition and subtraction, because that's all we have left. And again, we focus from left to right. And we solve it as they appear in that order from left to right. So the first thing we do is subtract 25 minus 8, and that's 17. So that gives us 17 plus 9, and that second step would be to add 17 plus 9, which is equal to 26. And that's the final answer, 26. It looked very complicated, but following PEMDAS, the order of operations, we were able to come up with a correct answer, 26. Now let's go over some of the common mistakes when using PEMDAS. Rather, not using, but misusing PEMDAS. So let's say that you needed to solve the following expression. 10 minus 2 times 4 plus 1. A lot of students you do 10 minus 2 first. Because 10 minus 2 is 8, they end up with 8 times 4 plus 1, and that's absolutely wrong. Remember, P is first, solve parentheses. You're supposed to do 4 plus 1, which is 5, so that gives you 10 minus 2 times 4 plus 1, which was 5, so we end up with 10 minus 2 times 5. What's next? Multiply, of course. So we do the 2 times 5, which is 10, and we end up with the expression 10 minus 10, which is, of course, equal to 0, the final answer we subtracted there as the last step. Another common mistake involves using PEMDAS incorrectly, and this is so common. Watch out for this one. Let's say that you needed to solve 10 divided by 2 times 5. You write PEMDAS. You know you're supposed to use it. You scan. You realize you have multiplication, and because the m appears first on PEMDAS, top to bottom, you multiply first. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then you say 10 divided by 10 is 1, and you think that's the right answer. Wrong. Remember, you're supposed to group the multiplication division and to put arrow R to remind you that you solve it in the order in which it appears first. If it's division first, you divide first. If it's multiplication first, then you multiply first. But it is whichever of those two operations appear first from left to right. That's very critical to remember. In this case, because division appears first, we divide first. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so we end up with 5 times 5 and the final answer of 25, which is correct. Finally, another common mistake is using PEMDAS. It involves an expression like the following. Say you needed to do 2 times 4 plus 3. A lot of times you will think that multiplication is first, so you do 2 times 4, giving you 8, and then you magically made the parentheses disappear. You get 8 plus 3 and think that 11 is the right answer. Well, that is absolutely wrong. And this would be wrong for a lot of reasons. I mean, you magically made the parentheses disappear. Yes, you did multiply 2 times the 4, but what happened to the 3? So no, that's wrong. So remember, PEMDAS specifically asks you to begin with P parentheses. So you solve anything that is inside of parentheses first. In this case, the 4 plus 3, which is equal to 7. So you end up with 2 times 7, which is 14. And that is the right answer. And that concludes this overview of PEMDAS. Thank you.